What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Jason from the Lock Talk, and I'm back for another YouTube video breakdown. This one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about the UFC for this upcoming Saturday, February 20th, Henry Suhudo against my boy Yong Sadong. I'm going to talk about as many fights as I can. I don't want to go over through every fight because some fights, in my opinion, are going to be worth going over, but mainly most of the main card fights with some other sprinkles in it. So this will be my first UFC breakdown for the fights I do want to talk about. But before I go off and start talking about all these plays, I do want to talk about one of my partner apps, Novig. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best sports books that's available in so many states. It's US-based, and they offer commission-free betting. So, in other words, if you have to bet on, let's say, a spread for the NBA or college basketball, you usually bet minus 110 on FanDuel. But here, you don't have to pay that commission. You only pay minus 105. Those savings add up to a lot when you're betting a lot or in the long run. So, use my code LOCK. Get up to a 50% deposit discount on your first deposit. It's available in so many states. So if you're in California, Texas, Florida, states that a lot of guys bet in, stop using all those offshore books or Hard Rock and get on Novig. You'll love it. I mean, this is an example of a previous game, Hornets against the Lakers. I showed everyone where you can bet on the Hornets money line. They end up winning. You got $100 more for every $100 you bet betting on Novig versus FanDuel. So besides that, man, let's still talk about the fights, man. We have a bunch of fights on this card. This is gonna be what UFC for this fight night, so it's not a number, it's not a pay-per-view card. So you guys can watch it for free. Just like I like doing. I like watching all the fights for free. So let's talk about some of the fights. Again, I'm not gonna talk about every single fight that's on here. Like, for example, I'm not gonna talk about the Modestas Bukauskas fight. I don't really like this fight too much. I'm gonna focus on fights that I feel like I can give some good analysis on. Doesn't mean that I'm not betting on later on. I have to watch the weigh-ins later, or if they've already happened already, because I do want to see those. But I'm going to go over a few fights. So let's talk about the first one. And the first one I do want to talk about is, I mean, there's some good ones here, man. I like the Nuzran Rozaboyev. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but let me just go skim through this really quickly. I mean, Rozaboyev, pretty solid fighter. I mean, he had one big knockout over my man, Cedric Dumas. And then he also had Bruno Ferreira, who he knocked out. I believe Cedric Dumas, he poked him in the eye, and then he was able to ground and pound him. But he was winning that fight throughout the entire time. His last fight, he did lose to Joaquin Buckley, who has really shown to really flourish so far. As of late, he's done extremely good. He uses wrestling. I think it's more physicality, and he ended up winning that fight. On the other side, we got my man Eric McCarnico. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I don't know honestly too much about him. I saw some tape on him. He hasn't really fought in the UFC. I mean, he does have a tough matchup against Rozaboyev, who he has pretty good stand-up, is very long. I mean, he's going to have a decent height advantage, but the reach advantage is not that strong. I mean, 76-inch reach versus 75, pretty surprising. I mean, this guy, Eric, has a really long reach. I mean, you know, I think if Eric could learn anything from the Joaquin Buckley fights, use his physicality, maybe use some wrestling or use his stand-up. But, I mean, I think Rozaboyev will be able to fight on the outside. I do think the reach advantage that he does not have here will be playing to his detriment because he's so used to having that over most of his opponents. But I think this fight's kind of unbettable. I don't think he deserves to be a minus 300 favorite. So I would personally avoid this fight, but I know a lot of people will be watching it. So I did want to talk about it very quickly. Whoa, an ad. I actually use that brand, so shout out to Hounds of Foucault. But one fight I do want to talk about, the first one, is this one right here. Ricky Simone against Javed Basharat. So Javed Basharat has been the darling for a lot of sports betting, you know, UFC people. They love Basharat. They love the Basharat brothers, point-type fighters. But he's not done too great in his last few fights. Got the draw against Victor Henry because he gave some groin strikes and then lost outright to Amin Zahabi. Actually bet on Amin Zahabi, gave him out at big plus. I think he was around plus 160, plus 180. So that was a very good win on my end. Ricky Simone's been a 3-fight losing skid, losing to Yadong, who you can't be too upset. He's fighting the main card right now. Mario Bautista, who's a very, very good fighter, I think. You know, a little bit, you know, he hasn't been too exciting, but definitely getting some good dubs. Very, very solid fighter. And then Vinicius Oliveira, who just came up with a big win against Nurmagomedov. So, I mean, he's had some pretty tough competition for a while. In my opinion, Javed Basharat has not had that great of competition. The one thing I will say about Basharat is that he's a point-type fighter. Does he have knockout power? Yes, but he's really good at just being in the pocket, staying on the outside, jabbing you, point fighting you, throwing deep kicks, and just make you very frustrated, using his technique and speed to win a decision. Has he won knockouts and things like that before? He has. He definitely has. I mean, but as you can see here, a lot of people are, at least on the consensus side, people think he's going to win by decision. I think so. I mean, they don't have the odds here. I'm going to tell you guys the odds. Javed Basharat by decision is -140. I think he probably ends up winning in that fashion, but I think overall just to win, I don't know if he's a -240, bro. I think Basharat, it all depends on how Ricky Simone comes out. Ricky Simone comes in like head first, very little, defense. He's willing to take punches, willing to take damage. He will be trying to attack for wrestling. That's the only way Ricky Simone's gonna win. He's not gonna win a stand-up fight against Basharat. Basharat's a little too slick. Is totally comfortable being on the outside. Ricky Simone has to make this fight dirty, and I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to do so. But how confident am I in Javed Basharat winning a decision? I think. I think who's the more physically imposing fighter? I think Ricky Simone, if he gets his hands on Basharat, he will be able to get some takedowns on the fence or in the center of the cage. Thing is, will he be able to hold him down? Basharat has pretty good grappling. I've seen his jiu-jitsu. He's not too bad, but I don't think he deserves to be a -240. I would really cap this fight around him being maybe a -170, given his recent performances. And I think Ricky Simone, even though he hasn't fared too well in his last 3 fights, he's fought much, much tougher competition than Basharat. So the way I look at this fight is, you want to take a strike at a dog. I think it's not a bad dog to attack. I think Ricky Simone has a pathway to win by wrestling and maybe making this fight a little bit dirty, fighting in the pocket, maybe being able to land some bigger strikes, overhand rights over Basharat, who's a slick fighter. But I think for me, it's either you bet on Ricky Simone or you do Basharat win by decision. Can Basharat finish this fight? Absolutely, man. He can knock out Ricky Simone as he walks in head first, but I don't know. I'm not super confident in that. I don't want to lay -240. So for me, the way I would play it is Ricky Simone money line, if you want to do like a small dog bet, or Basharat by decision at -130. Those are the only 2 ways I would personally want to look at this fight. All right, let's move up a little bit. I'm going to skip this Klein fight. I think Abdul Malik is a huge favorite. I mean, there's nothing really to look at here, but this one's pretty interesting. Andre Fili against, how do I say his first name, but Kasta. Very even fight, even by the odds. Right now, it's basically a pick'em. But I really do think Kasta is the better fighter. I think Andre Fili, he's very good for the first 1 to 2 rounds, but then ends up fading in many of his fights. I mean, one of them I could give you an example at was against Dan Ige. I mean, Dan Ige, he got knocked out by Dan Ige. That was pretty surprising. Ige, strong power puncher, but I thought maybe Fili would be able to outslick him there and wasn't able to do that. Knocked out Lucas Almeida. Before that, lost the decision fight against Nathaniel Wood, put a lot of volume on him. I actually had Nathaniel Wood in that fight. And then his last fight, he fought Cub Swanson. I mean, that was a good victory, but I honestly thought that fight was very close, bro. I mean, Cub Swanson pretty much almost had that in the bag. And Cub Swanson's super old. I mean, way out of his prime. This was not an impressive split decision victory, in my opinion. On the other side, I think Costa's fought, tougher opponents. He fought Thiago Moises. Can't be too upset about that. I mean, lost by submission, got taken down. Beat Austin Lingo. That's okay. I mean, Austin Lingo is an average fighter, in my opinion. Got knocked out by Steven Garcia. Garcia is an excellent fighter, but getting knocked out by anybody is not great. And then he did win his last fight against someone who I don't think is Shaibula, who's really not at his level. I think Shaibula is good, but doesn't have the ground defense. I think, in my opinion, Kasta has more past the victory. I think he could take him down. He can stand up on the feet with him. I do think, however, Fili is a little bit slicker boxing, a little bit slicker in the pocket, but I think Kasta has more ways to win. It's a very tough fight, though. Don't get me wrong. But I do think they both match up pretty closely. Fili does have a reach advantage, but I think overall, I want the guy who has the more pathways to victory. I do agree with the line. I think Kasta has more ways to win. I think he'll be able to dog it out and win a decision victory. Can he finish Fili? For sure, Fili's been finished before. But the same thing with Kasta. I think this will be a very, very exciting fight. One of the more exciting fights on the card. But give me Kasta to get the win here. but I totally understand a bet on Feely as well. I think he could also get the job done too. All right, guys, let's see. Let's talk about the next fight. I'm gonna skip these next few fights, but I'm gonna go maybe straight to here. Uh, I do think in this Ebo and Ion Kutalaba fight. Look, I mean, Ebo is a pretty decent sized favorite. But Ion Kutalaba, he's a journeyman, bro. I mean, he makes things interesting. He did get his last win against Ivan Ursula. I mean, he's not a very good fighter at all. That guy's a bum. Did lose to Philippe Lins, who's an excellent fighter. But who was this guy really fought, bro? I mean, Rafael Cosiera, not that great. I mean, he's fought Tukari. I mean, this guy's a bum. All these other guys have been contender series or lower level fighters. I mean, Ion Kutalaba, even though he has a ton of losses, look at his record, 18-10. He's fought the cream of the crop, bro. Kenny and Choku, he's fought Johnny Walker. I mean, that's a pretty bad loss. Johnny Walker is not good in my opinion, but I mean, that was a long time ago. 2 years, Johnny Walker was a little bit of a different fighter. But I don't know, man. I do think I understand why Ebo is the favorite. I mean, Ion Kutalaba, the one thing you can't rely on is his gas tank and his unreliability as being an intelligent fighter. Like, he has many pathways to win. He could take down Ebo, probably win doing that. But throughout his history, he's been more than comfortable standing and banging with guys. And, it makes it tough for me to want to back him, even though he's a decent dog price. But I do think, Ebo's going to have to prove it to me. Can he be composed, not gas out, and beat Ion Kutalaba, who has a lot of experience? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too mad about taking a dog shot here at plus 150 because, I mean, I do agree maybe at minus 150. I think there's some slight value with Ion, but you also got to remember this, man. Ion's a little bit older. I mean, 31, even though he feels like he's been fighting for such a long time. He's definitely a true veteran in the sport. Ion has a lot to prove. He's stepping up in class for sure, man, but this will be a good test for him. I wouldn't go too crazy. I get the arguments that Ion has been chinning before, and Ebo has power to knock him out and finish him here. But I don't know if I want to lay minus 180 with him, man. I'm not sure. He doesn't feel like a minus 180. He feels like a minus 150, in my opinion. That's why I would cap the lines. I understand. I mean, you want to take the younger guy, the prospect, going against a journeyman. But, hey, Ion can shock you, bro. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight is a dog fight in the beginning and Ion wins just through his experience and dogs him out and he gasses out at the end, bro. But this will be an interesting one. It's another very, very exciting fight in my opinion. All right, let's talk about this next one, bro. This one's going to be a fucking crazy one, bro, right here. Gene Silva against Melcik Bagasarian. And look, I'm going to put it like this. I think Gene Silva is definitely the better fighter overall. The key will come to this. Will Gene Silva go for takedowns? I mean, I've seen a few fights where most of his fights where Gene Silva is just knocking dudes out on his feet. He is 14-2. He knocked out Drew Dober, who's the guy's has his chin out in the air. He's got knocked out by everybody and gets touched up all the time. Not that Charles Jourdain. That's a pretty good victory. I like Charles Jourdain. Wilson, not a big name. Valerian in the contender series knocked another guy out. Melcik beat Tucker Lutz. It's an okay victory. Lost to Josh Kulibau. Josh Kulibau's okay, bro. I think he's a pretty decent fighter. I would probably put him under Gene Silva, but Kulibau is not an easy customer at all. Beat Bruno Souza. But other than that, I mean, not super impressive. But I will say this, though. If you do not know about Melcik Bagasarian, he is a decorated stand-up fighter, kickboxer. And if Gene Silva wants to go and stand and bang with him and fight a kickboxing match, I do not know if he's a minus 550. He's a huge favorite, bro. Before I get thrashed in the comments, Gene Silva should win this fight. I mean, the odds tell you that. But it all depends on how he takes the fight. I think if he should not be a minus 550 if he does not go for takedowns. Because I think the way you beat Melcik is if you take him down, you control him, win off points, maybe try to submit him. But Gene Silva has not done that very recently. Has he made some takedowns before? I've seen him do it a few times. I mean, I think he did it in his contender series fight. But 50, if he stands and bangs with Melcik, he can get caught or maybe just lose a very close decision. I wouldn't be surprised at all. A lot of people think he's going to knock out Bagasarian. I don't know if he's going to knock him out if he stands up, only kickboxing. So I'm going to go against the grain here, man. I do think at this price, right, At plus 400, I mean, there's no value at betting Gene Silva unless you do a direct prop by knockout or decision. I believe Gene Silva by knockout is like plus 100 or minus 120. It's like it's a big dog no matter what you bet. So, in my opinion, Gene Silva is not a parlay piece. I think there's definitely a pathway for him to lose if he doesn't do any type of grappling at all. If it's standing up, can he knock out Melcik? Yes, but I think Melcik is very, very tough on his feet. My pick for the video would be Melcik plus 400. I think he has a good shot, bro. I think it's a great dog shot at a great price. You don't have to bet too much to win anything. Don't expect to win this type of bet, but I think on an odds basis, Silva should be maybe at most minus 270, especially if he doesn't go for any takedowns. So I will go with Melcik here at this price point, plus 400. I think there's a pathway for him to win, especially if it's a stand-up fight. But you do have to remember this. Gene Silva is coming from that nerd camp. They will probably have a pretty good game plan for him. And I assume he will do takedowns, but I'm telling you, go back to this video. If he doesn't go for any takedowns, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it goes to the cards and Melcik wins the decision, or even hurts Gene on the feet. Because he does have a reach advantage, he has a slight height advantage, so he will be a little bit longer there on the feet, but you got to take this guy down, man. I would be scared to be backing Gene Silva if he doesn't go for any takedowns. All right, let's see. I'll talk about these next three ones pretty quickly. Rob Fahn against Gene Masumoto. Man, Rob Fahn's kind of had a resurgence in his career, in my opinion, even though he's had two recent losses. But again, top-tier opponents. I think it's very similar to last week's card where there's been a bunch of vets who have fought very tough competition, and they're now fighting the new and up-and-comers. We'll see. Will the new up-and-comers falter again, or will they rise to the occasion? This one is tough. I think this line is kind of correct. I think Gene Masumoto should be the favorite. Maybe I would like that at minus 140. It's making it a little bit tough if you want to lay Gene Masumoto, but Gene Masumoto has been excellent, bro. I had him against Brad Katona in a parlay piece. Smoked Dan Argueta. That's a pretty decent win. And before that was in the Contender Series and LFA. Rob Fahn, I thought the cream of the crop, bro. He beat Adrian Yanez when Adrian Yanez was on the rise, bro. Knocked him out clean cold. I remember I had Adrian Yanez in a 2-team parlay. He smoked that. I thought Yanez was going to beat Rob Fahn, who I thought was becoming somewhat chinny, but hey, knocked out a guy who was viewed to have a granite chin. Then he fought Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen is an absolute beast. If it wasn't for the fact that he fought some really tough comp, he would definitely be a champion. Lost to Figueiredo, a former champ, an absolute athletic beast, so no harm in that. And then he beat Kyler Phillips, who was a rising star, and Kyler Phillips did what he did. He gassed out in the last round, and Rob Fahn just dogged him, bro. This one's a little bit tougher. I don't think Gene Masumoto will gas out. I think Gene Masumoto has good stand-up and good grappling to make it interesting for Rob Fahn. Rob Fahn has pretty good wrestling from what I've seen. Obviously, Figueiredo was able to take him down, and so was Sandhagen. But I don't think we'll see, but I don't think Gene Masumoto is at their level as of yet. But I think this is a fight that Rob Fahn can definitely win. I think this line's a little bit, there's very slight value on Rob Fahn. I think Gene Masumoto should be the favorite. Again, similar to the other fights I talked about, who has Gene Masumoto fought versus Rob Fahn? Rob Fahn has definitely had a much tougher schedule of competition. The one thing I will say is that Gene Masumoto is 25. He's going in, not even in his prime yet, and he's probably stepping out of his prime, especially in this weight class at 37 years old. He will have a pretty decent reach advantage, 71 inches to his 68. But yeah, I think Rob Fahn, if he wins, I think it will be by a decision win. He'll jab on the outside, use a stand-up, maybe frustrate Gene Masumoto. But if Gene Masumoto wants to win, he has to mix it up. But for the fight pick, I'm going to do it again, bro. I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to give me Rob Fahn plus 135. I think he wins a decision victory, and I'm not sure if I think the decision probably has to be like maybe plus 170, plus money in that fashion. I don't think Gene Masumoto can definitely hurt Rob Fahn, maybe finish him. I think there is some slight value with Rob, bro. In a winnable fight, in my opinion, I think we've seen a resurgence. He's kind of bounced back a little bit, especially with that last win against Kyler Phillips 4 months ago. Maybe he could show this other upcoming guy that, you got to step it up before you come fight with the big dogs. But we'll see, man. Definitely a very interesting fight. All right, ooh, another ad, man. Sorry, I'm not in my account for Tapology, but let's talk about this fight, man. The co-main event, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez against Brandon All-In Allen. This is going to be a good fight, bro. Two guys who have really, they're at the top of their division, in my opinion. Both in the middleweight division. It's going to be interesting to see what moves they make, but simply put, I think this line A has moved way too much. I don't think Anthony Hernandez should be a minus 340. I think he was like maybe minus 270 at one point. But regardless, I like Anthony Hernandez in this fight. I think he has decent stand-up and also better grappling and jiu-jitsu than Brandon Allen, who's very excellent on the ground. I think also Brandon Allen has had clear cardio issues. I think this is a 3-round fight, so I don't think we should have any big problems with that. But I think Anthony Hernandez's pressure, his wrestling will probably gas out Brandon Allen, and he'll get either an inside the distance victory or maybe a very clear decision, in my opinion. Do I want to lay minus 340? Is he a parlay piece? Maybe. I think he's going to win against Brandon Allen. Unless Brandon Allen catches him, I think Anthony Hernandez, he showed, especially in that last fight against Pereira, he is a absolute dog, bro. I mean, he absolutely took Pereira behind the woodshed and beat the brakes off him. And then the last fight for Brandon Allen, and we saw him kind of gas out against Imavov, who we thought had questionable cardio as well. He was doing very good in the beginning, but then at the very end kind of, faded away, and Imavov got the win. And now look at him now. He just knocked out Izzy. Yeah, I mean, I think both guys have done very well in their recent stints, but I think Anthony Hernandez is very similar to Brandon Allen, just he has more grit. But is he a minus 340 price tag? I think it's a little bit high, but I do think he's going to win, and I will put him to win maybe even inside the distance. I think Anthony Hernandez can find the finish here tonight. So I think inside the distance is probably the only few ways you can get something that's not this heavily juiced. So that's one prop I'll look at. But again, I wouldn't be 100% surprised if it got to the cards, because I believe this is a 3-round fight. You can correct me down below, man. But yeah, I like Anthony Hernandez in this one. Give it to me. I think he wins inside the distance on this fight. And all right, fellas and ladies, if there are any ladies watching this, let's get to the main one, bro. We got the main card of the evening. Henry Suhudo against Yong Sadong, bro. And I mean, I'm not trying to be biased to my boy, bro, but I always support my Asian fighters. But this one, I've been really looking at this fight for a long time, because everyone is on Yong Sadong, bro. Whatever his name, Song Yadong, whatever. Everyone hates Triple C, man. The cringe king. And I don't blame him, bro. I mean, Henry Cejudo, though, however, I feel like this is like a theme the UFC has put on. The up-and-comers against vets who have had, their run in the UFC. Obviously, Henry Cejudo has had an absolute run. The guy's a legend, but there's one thing you got to pay attention to is he is 38 years old. Much, much older than Yong Sadong, who is basically coming into his prime, bro. He is 27 years old. I mean, he has his whole fight career ahead of him. And, I mean, he's a minus 260 favorite, bro, against Henry Cejudo at plus 210. That's crazy. If we rewinded this maybe 2 or 3 years back, I could imagine Suhudo being the favorite. With that being said, though, I will say this. Yong Sadong has definitely stepped up his wrestling. I remember him fighting earlier. All he was stand-up. You took him down. He could gas out. I mean, we saw Corey Sandhagen, put the work on him. I mean, Corey Sandhagen is a beast in this division. He beat Ricky Simone by knockout. He beat Chris Gutierrez recently, and then he did lose to Piotr Yan, and Piotr Yan mixed it up with him. Stand-up, takedowns. I mean, Piotr Yan is truly a level of his own, bro. I mean, he is a absolute beast, bro. I mean, I think he's gonna go again for that title run, but we'll see how much legs he has left, bro. I mean, the guy is a monster, bro. I think Piotr Yan is one of the best fighters. If not, I mean, he should get a title fight again, in my opinion. So nothing wrong with the losses he had. But for everyone who says that Cejudo's washed up, just think about who the guys he's fought, bro. I mean, before his losses, he fought Dominic Cruz, beat him. I mean, I guess that's not super impressive. Beat Marlon Moraes, Marlon Moraes was on the rise over there. Beat TJ Dillashaw, but I mean, TJ Dillashaw was a little bit injured. And his last loss was Aljo and Merab, bro. Merab obviously is clearly an absolute beast. So I don't think there's anything wrong with either of these losses. And they're also much, much different fighters than Song Yadong, bro. I mean, Song Yadong is not a wrestler. He's not like Merab. He's not like Aljo. He is primarily a stand-up boxer, kickboxer in the pocket, trying to hit you with a lot of power and explosiveness. I think the one thing that concerns me, if you're trying to be backing the Suhudo side, because I do think this line is off. Like, I don't, Song Yadong doesn't feel like a minus 260, bro, because there's definitely a clear path to beating him. But, I mean, physically, he's definitely going to be the much bigger fighter. 5'8", his reach is actually shorter than Suhudo. Suhudo at 5'4". I don't know, bro. I don't know if there's a few question marks I do have. Number one, how motivated is Henry Cejudo, bro? I mean, he's lost his last 2 fights. He's on the couch doing podcasts. He was smoking a vape. That's been like the biggest thing on social media. Does he really is he really training super hard to get this victory? Like, because even if he wins, where does he go from here, right? On the other side, Song Yadong, I mean, will he be able to be super effective all in through 5 rounds if Henry Cejudo is able to put a wrestling pace on him? Because he looks to slow down a little bit against Petr Yan. I mean, but Petr Yan has it looks like an unlimited gas tank throughout the entire fight. I mean, but he definitely was slowing down a little bit. Petr Yan would just, outworked him and then was able to use wrestling and won that fight. Cejudo, bro, I think there's a way for him to win, man. I mean, I think if he get the takedowns and maybe avoid a little bit of stand-up, he has okay stand-up, but good enough for him to open up the wrestling. I think he's going to have some tough times in the beginning trying to get Song Yadong down. I think Song Yadong will be very athletic and physical in the beginning, and it will look like Song Yadong is, totally piecing up maybe Henry and being a little too athletic. The question for me is, in 3rd to the 5th round, can Song Yadong keep it up? And will Cejudo be able to keep on pushing him? I don't know. Given Henry Cejudo's age, I guess I understand Song Yadong being a favorite, but I think he's too big of a favorite. So this is a terrible answer, but I think Song Yadong wins, majority of the time. But I do think he's overpriced. I don't think he should be a minus 260. I think he should be a minus 180, minus 170. I think plus 210 with Cejudo is great value. A very seasoned vet who, in a 5-round fight, if he's able to get at least 1 round to 2 rounds, we could see a very, very close fight, bro. And I would not want to be holding a minus 260 in a parlay or even as a single bet with Song Yadong. Yes, can Song Yadong knock out Cejudo? For sure. Is he the bigger fighter, the younger guy? Yes, but there has been a history where Song Yadong has struggled against some wrestlers, and Henry Cejudo, we'll see how, sharp he is in this fight, but obviously one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated, UFC wrestler and grappler the sport has seen so far. So I think there's a clear path for Cejudo to win. But given that at these odds, I wouldn't want to bet on Song Yadong minus 260. So give me Henry Cejudo plus 210. Do I like Henry, bro? I don't know. The cringe king, but let's see if Triple C can get a dub for us here at plus 210. But guys, if you've been liking this content, you've been enjoying it, man, remember, please hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next one, man. Good luck on your picks. And let's go cash some tickets, baby. All right? Much love.